Randy Orton just got suspended. And I need every single one of you to stop what you're doing right now, because what Nick Aldis just did is either the most courageous decision in WWE management history, or the most catastrophic blunder this company has made in years. And by the end of this video, you are going to have a very strong opinion about it. Drop it in the comments. I dare you to defend Nick Aldis after you hear everything I'm about to tell you. Let me paint you a picture. Randy Orton, the Viper, the legend killer, 13-time world champion, a man who has been in this business for over 2 decades, who has survived firings, controversies, and career-threatening injuries, walks back into WWE after one of the most emotional comeback stories this company has ever told, and within what feels like no time at all, he attacks Cardona and Cody Rhodes, back-to-back, in cold blood. That is not a man who's lost control. That is a man sending a message. And Nick Aldis, the SmackDown general manager, the man who is supposed to be the authority figure, the one person who's supposed to keep order on that brand, responds by slapping a suspension on Randy Orton like he's some rookie who showed up late to catering. Are you kidding me? Segment 1, setting the scene. Who is Randy Orton in 2024? Before we get into the nuclear fallout of this suspension, we need to talk about the context here. Because if you walk in without understanding what Randy Orton has been through, none of this hits the way it should. This man was gone. Genuinely, possibly never coming back. Gone. A spinal fusion surgery in 2022 left WWE fans and honestly, Orton himself wondering if we'd ever see the Viper in that ring again. And then he came back. He stood in that ring, he pointed to the WrestleMania sign, and an entire arena lost their collective minds. The emotion was real. This was supposed to be a redemption arc. A legend returning to reclaim his glory. But here's what nobody wants to say out loud: Randy Orton was never, ever going to stay on the straight and narrow. You do not watch 20 years of Randy Orton's career and expect him to just be a good guy indefinitely. This man's DNA is chaos. His entire legacy is built on betrayal, on striking when you least expect it, on that dead-eyed stare right before the RKO that has haunted every single person who's ever stepped in the ring with him. So when Orton went after Cardona, someone who, let's be honest, has been making a lot of noise across multiple promotions and has not exactly been quiet about his ambitions, and then turned his attention toward Cody Rhodes, the WWE champion, the face of the entire company, this was not random. This was calculated. This was the Viper doing exactly what the Viper does. And Nick Aldis suspended him for it. Segment 2, the attack on Cardona. Was Orton wrong? Let's talk about Cardona first, because I think this is where the story actually starts, and a lot of people are glossing over it. Cardona has spent the last several years reinventing himself. He's done the indie circuit. He's built a brand. He's been vocal, he's been visible, and he has made it crystal clear that he considers himself underutilized, underappreciated, and underpaid by the mainstream wrestling world. And you know what? For a section of the fanbase, he has a point. But Cardona also has a personality that rubs certain people, certain locker room people, the wrong way. And Randy Orton, who has been in WWE long enough to remember when respect was earned silently and not announced on social media, clearly had a problem with whatever Cardona was bringing to the table. The attack was brutal. It was vicious. It was vintage Orton in the worst or best, depending on your perspective, way possible. No warning, no build-up, just the Viper striking without mercy. Cardona didn't see it coming. Nobody did. Now here's where it gets interesting. Was Randy Orton justified? I'm not saying what he did was right by the rulebook, but in the unwritten code of professional wrestling, in the world where respect is currency and making noise without backing it up is an unforgivable sin, did Cardona invite some of this? Did his behavior, his attitude, his very presence make him a target? A lot of legends would say yes. A lot of old school guys watching from the back would have quietly nodded when Orton struck, and that is something Nick Aldis completely failed to take into account. Segment 3, the attack on Cody Rhodes. This changes everything. But then Orton went further, and this is what broke the internet. Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, the man who finished his story at WrestleMania, the WWE champion, the man who is quite literally the heart and soul of what WWE's creative direction has been banking on for the last 2+ years. Randy Orton attacked Cody Rhodes. I want you to sit with that for a second, because this is not just a wrestling angle. This is not just a feud being set up. This is a declaration of war on everything Cody Rhodes represents, and by extension, on everything WWE has been building toward. Think about what Cody represents. He represents the babyface who earned it, the underdog who overcame, the son who proved he wasn't just his father's legacy. The fans love Cody Rhodes in a way that is genuinely rare in modern wrestling. The connection is authentic. And Randy Orton, stone cold, dead-eyed, calculating Randy Orton, decided to put his hands on that man. Why? That is the question that should be keeping you up at night. Because Randy Orton does nothing without a reason. Even when it looks spontaneous, it isn't. Even when it looks like the Viper has just snapped, there is always something deeper churning underneath. Is this about the title? Is this personal? Does Orton feel like Cody's rise has somehow diminished what legends like him built? Is there history between them that runs deeper than what we've seen on screen? Or, and stay with me here, is Randy Orton being used by somebody? Is there a hand pulling the strings that we haven't seen yet? Because one thing I know about Randy Orton, he is almost never the pawn. He is almost always the player. Segment 4: Nick Aldis and the suspension. The Authority strikes back. So into all of this chaos steps Nick Aldis. And honestly, credit where it's due, Aldis did not back down. He looked Randy Orton in the eye and he handed down a suspension. And in kayfabe, that takes guts. Because Randy Orton is not the kind of man you cross lightly. Orton has ended careers, fictional or otherwise. He has turned on authority figures before. He has RKO'd GMS owners, legends, and icons alike. But here's my problem with what Aldis did, and this is where I need your opinions in the comments right now. Nick Aldis just made Randy Orton a martyr. Think about it. The moment you suspend Randy Orton, you do three things simultaneously. 1. You give him time away from television, which only makes the crowd more desperate to see him return. 2. You frame the entire situation as the Authority crushing a legend, which, whether you're a Randy Orton fan or not, is a narrative that always generates sympathy. And 3. You give Orton time to plan. Unsupervised. Unmonitored. Away from the cameras. The most dangerous version of Randy Orton is not the one you can see. It is the one operating in the shadows. It is the one who has been given nothing but time and motivation. Nick Aldis may have thought he was restoring order. What he actually did was light a fuse and walk away from the dynamite. And let's not forget, this is not Nick Aldis's first rodeo as a GM. He has had to make hard calls before. But this call, suspending one of the most volatile and unpredictable superstars on the roster without a contingency plan, without an endgame, without any apparent strategy for what happens when Orton comes back, that is not authority. That is desperation dressed up in a suit. Segment 5: The locker room reaction and what it means. Here's something nobody's talking about loudly enough. What does the locker room think? Because in the world of WWE, perception is everything. When Randy Orton attacks two high-profile names and then gets suspended for it, every single person in that locker room is watching. They are calculating. They are deciding where they stand. Some of them are scared. Some of them are relieved that Aldis acted. But I promise you, some of them, the ones who've been around long enough and the ones who understand power dynamics in that environment, some of them are quietly, privately, siding with Randy Orton. And when Orton comes back, because he is coming back, he's going to know exactly who those people are. And that is going to fundamentally change the landscape of SmackDown in ways that Nick Aldis is not prepared for. The veteran locker room presence that Orton carries is unmatched. He doesn't need to be liked. He needs to be respected. And a suspension doesn't strip you of respect. In some cases, in this case, it amplifies it. Segment 6: Cody Rhodes must respond, but how? Let's bring this back to Cody for a second, because the ball is absolutely in his court now. Cody Rhodes is the WWE champion. He is the face of this company. He has a responsibility not just to his character, not just to his storyline, but to the message that his entire run has sent to the WWE universe. That working hard, doing the right thing, finishing your story, has value. That good triumphs. But Randy Orton just put his hands on him. And now Orton is suspended, meaning Cody can't immediately respond in the ring. He can't get his hands on Orton tonight. He has to wait. And waiting is not something Cody Rhodes does well when he's been disrespected. So what does Cody do? Does he call for the suspension to be lifted early so he can face Orton on his own terms? Does he push Nick Aldis to give him a match the moment Orton returns? Or does Cody, in a shocking twist of character, decide to take matters into his own hands and go find Randy Orton during the suspension? Any of those roads leads somewhere extraordinary. And every single one of them has the potential to produce a match that belongs in the conversation for the greatest WrestleMania showdowns of all time. Cody versus Orton. The American Nightmare versus the Viper. The man who built his career on finishing his story versus the man who has spent his career destroying other people's stories. Tell me that doesn't give you chills. Segment 7: The Big Picture. Where does this all go? Let me zoom out for a second, because I think what we're watching here is bigger than one suspension. Bigger than one attack. Bigger, even, than Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. What we're watching is WWE testing something. They are testing whether Randy Orton, as a tweener, as a man without a clear moral compass, as a legend killer operating outside the traditional heel/face binary, can carry a major storyline that feels genuinely unpredictable in an era where fans think they've seen everything. The answer, based on the reaction to these attacks, based on the internet absolutely melting down, based on the fact that you clicked on this video, the answer is yes. He absolutely can. But WWE and Nick Aldis need to be careful. Because the worst thing you can do with Randy Orton is make him boring. The worst thing you can do is over-explain his motivations, strip away the mystery, and turn him into just another scheduled attraction on a wrestling card. The suspension buys time. But time is only useful if you fill it with tension, with questions, with the slow build of something that makes the eventual return feel like an explosion. Do that right, and this becomes one of the most compelling stories WWE has told in years. Do it wrong, and you've wasted Randy Orton's return. Again. And the fanbase will not forgive that. Closing the call to action. So here's where I leave you, and I mean this. I genuinely want to hear from every single one of you in the comments below. Was Nick Aldis right to suspend Randy Orton? Or did he just make the biggest mistake of his tenure as SmackDown GM? Is Randy Orton the villain here, or is he the most honest person in the entire building, the one man willing to do what nobody else will? And where does this go? Cody versus Orton at WrestleMania, is that the match we're building toward? Or is there a swerve coming that none of us see yet? Sound off. Go crazy in the comments. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know, because this conversation needs to happen at full volume. Not a whisper. Not a tweet. A full-throat, passionate wrestling fan argument, the kind that made us all fall in love with this business in the first place. I'm Ring Rumble 1. I'll see you in the next one.